I started it in reverse. I hit the button, then I hit go live. So, all right, everybody, welcome to an exciting episode of Under the Dome. It's draft week. I can't believe it. Actually, it doesn't feel like it's the end of April already, because although some of the Saints players are not going to participate, I mean, we're looking at, draft this weekend, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, a week, and then the rookie mini camp, and then supposed to be OTAs. They're not going to participate in OTAs. They may have a mini camp, and then we're going to be talking about getting ready for the season. So
yeah. Well, the whole pattern of things was thrown off by not having a combine this year.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I preferred this year over the past several years because you got more of an individual look at these guys. I think that the combine is way overrated. The pro days, I think, is a lot more streamlined. Of course, it costs more to do that because you're having to fly scouts all over the country to different schools and what have you. But I prefer the way they did it this year over the combine completely.
Well, and the thing about all the combine, you always get the workout warriors that the Malamula is probably one of the most famous examples, but there's always somebody at the combine who just blows everybody away because he runs really well in shorts and t-shirts. And that part you don't see this year. There isn't somebody who's suddenly skyrocketing up the draft boards because he had this incredible workout or this incredible combine weekend. You are seeing a little bit of that with the pro days, but some of it, and this is the thing about social media they don't seem to understand, there is so much smokescreen going on and the media really is the one manipulating things. Like you look at the quarterbacks, for example, okay? They're trying to add mystery to the quarterback race because everybody knows they can go 1, 2, 3. And they're saying, San Francisco is trying to decide between Mac Jones and Justin Fields, and is Trey Lance the dark horse? And San Francisco doesn't trade up to number 3 with the Miami Dolphins because they're not sure who they want to get. They know who they want to get. They know who's going 1 and 2.
Yeah.
The only thing that would screw them up is if the Jets take somebody they don't expect to be there. But everybody's pretty much got it narrowed down. Trevor Lawrence number 1, and probably the BYU quarterback Zach Wilson number 2. So,
I watched on ESPNU. I think it was Sunday night, a replay of one of his games this year. Unfortunately, it was versus Louisiana Tech. And I was very, very impressed with the kid. Great arm, great.
Coastal Carolina, and I was kind of disappointed in how his play was in that game. I thought he was pushing too hard against Coastal, and Coastal ended up beating BYU, and that's one of that and the fact that they suddenly came down with COVID, so they have to play the Sun Belt Championship is why they were co-champions and got a higher bowl bid than UL. So, it's hard to grade a quarterback based on one game.
Yeah, I get that. But, I mean, in terms of his body of work, that was the only thing that I had seen.
Yeah.
Was Sunday night. He looked like the only knock that I had on him was he looks to be smallish. And how ironic is it that somebody that covers the Saints is going to complain about the height of a quarterback?
He's actually 6'2". So
he did not look it in that game. He looked to be about Bree's size.
Yeah. It's all about your stance. It's all about how you carry yourself.
Yeah.
But my point I was saying earlier was that they're talking about how the 49ers, can't decide between Mac Jones and Justin Fields and Trey Lance being the dark horse and stuff like that. They've got their mind made up. They know exactly who they're going to go for.
Yeah, you don't invest that kind of draft capital in somebody that if you don't have a decision already made. You're not taking a chance. You're trying to enact your will or impose your will.
Right. And I really believe that the answer is Justin Fields. They're going to pull the trigger on Justin Fields at 3. And
I really believe you, given the choice of the two, I believe you'd probably be correct with that.
Right. Just simply because I think Shanahan wants to run those bootlegs and have a quarterback who can run out of those bootlegs, those naked bootlegs. That's what he likes. He's already had drop back passers. He's got basically a more injury prone version of Mac Jones in Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
He's had a pretty stationary quarterback when he was coaching the offense for the Atlanta Falcons and Matt Ryan. So he wants that mobile quarterback, that guy who can compete with the Russell Wilsons and Kyler Murray's there in the NFC West.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's how he's looking at it. These are the guys I got to beat to win this division. I win this division, and I have a good shot of being a number 1 and a number 2 seed because it's probably the toughest division. So
at this point now, I wouldn't argue that. I think that's probably team by team. I would say that the NFC West is probably the most competitive at this point.
And he still wants to do the multiple running backs, and he's still going to power a lot of the running game. But having a quarterback that can run with those running backs makes the RPOs and things like that an attractive option. And he watched what Tampa did to Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Now, granted, the Chiefs didn't have either of their tackles, but he did see that. So he's going to want a quarterback who has escapability. Something on fire?
No, I just had a noise.
Oh, okay. So, then it gets down to, Mac Jones and Trey Lance, where do they go? And let me go pull up my draft order again because I misplaced it. Here you're looking at Carolina possibly needing a quarterback still. The Patriots needing a quarterback. Detroit maybe needing a quarterback. Chicago definitely needing a quarterback. Uh-oh. Something on fire. Someone's getting down. Someone's getting killed. Waiting patiently. Oh my God. Waiting patiently. No, Matt, the title of tonight's show isn't so much for what it's worth. I've used that title before. The actual title of the show is a Metallica song. Yeah, that's true. I forgot about the Sam Darnold trade. So I'm looking at the draft order here. You've got Denver could need a quarterback. Who knows that the Bears are going to move up to take a quarterback. The Washington football team could use a quarterback still. All right. I didn't hear any gunfire, so I'm guessing all is well.
Yeah, there's a radio that was on up there. I don't know how it got left on, but anyway.
Okay. All right. So I found a T-shirt for your barbecue joint. Y'all need to have. Um, it says, "I rub my meat before I stick it in."
I love it.
It's an ad that popped up next to my draft order thing. God knows how that came up, but that is a apron looking thing that like for cookouts. So I guess it's a Father's Day ad. So yeah. All right. So that's the question with where the other two quarterbacks go, because I still believe you'll see at least 5 quarterbacks go in the first round.
I think so.
I think definitely the Bears are going to be looking for a quarterback. So, do the Bears move up because Ryan Pace has come from the Mickey Loomis school of drafting? They can't wait to move up. They try and do everything that Mickey does. So I think they do trade up for somebody. The question is, who do they trade up for? And, that's the team where I think Mac Jones ends up, because that's the kind of quarterback they're going to want. And then, of course, we've talked about this before, but, keep in mind that the Saints, if they go through the draft and once that's over with, they can start signing some free agents now without losing the compensatory picks they've got for next year. So that is also something to keep in mind, that although you and I, before we came on the show, we're pretty sure they're targeting a cornerback in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
If the draft doesn't fall the way they want it to, and they have to, I don't know, take best player available, and instead of reaching for a guy, there is a very real possibility that, a guy like Richard Sherman signs with the Saints after the draft. So
yeah,
it's all things to keep in mind. Same with any receivers that are still out there, that kind of thing. Oh, by the way, did you hear that the Atlanta Falcons are putting Julio Jones on the market?
I did.
Yeah.
Which, to be totally honest with you, I expected that much earlier than now, because you you got a new coaching regime taking over there, and a new GM. You have, if you're wanting draft stock to start to rebuild that team, you have basically 3 guys that have enough value that you could get some decent picks in a deal involving them, and that's Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, and Calvin Ridley. That's basically the only 3 that you have that are of any of substantial value.
Yeah,
you're not.
No, go ahead.
You're not gonna move on from Matt Ryan yet, because you need him. You need him in your first season as a coach, because you have no other alternatives, no suitable alternatives anyway. He's going to need somebody to throw to, so that makes it a coin flip between Ridley and Julio, and you're always going to go with the younger model in that situation.
Well, they're trying to shed salary. They've got a bad cap situation because they had been trying to make a return trip to the Super Bowl. So he overpaid a lot. I mean, Todd Gurley has now signed with the Jets.
Never to be heard from again.
Well, I mean, his arthritic knee, he won't be an every down back. He's got to be in a rotation. Atlanta needs offensive line help. But the guy that, of course, the Falcons are targeting, all the Falcon fans are targeting, is Kyle Pitts, the tight end out of Florida. That's who they want.
And if he doesn't go to the Falcons, he'll go to the Bengals on the next pick, no doubt.
No doubt. I think, though, that the Bengals probably are expecting, Pitts to go 4th. So they're going to target
Sewell.
No, the
lineman.
The LSU receiver.
Jamar?
Is Jamar Chase? Yeah.
Yeah. He's
Big coach.
everything that I've read and seen on Jamar Chase, had he not opted out
Mhm.
of the season this year, he would have been the number one wide receiver in coming out this year.
Right. Yeah, and I believe so too. And it's that whole we're going to give you somebody you're familiar with. We're going to let you throw to Jamar Chase, thinking that okay, we're going to get that chemistry going again, just like you had with Joe Brady at LSU.
Yeah.
And I think that the Dolphins are doing the same thing at 6. I expect them to go after Devonta Smith to
Yeah.
give Tua his old teammate to throw to.
Well,
You know,
familiarity with between a quarterback and a wide receiver can only pay dividends.
yeah, yeah.
But it's not always that seamless transition from one level to the next, though.
Right. And so that leaves us the Detroit Lions at 7. Now Detroit made their pick really when they did the quarterback swap. You now have a younger but expensive quarterback in Jared. I can't believe I keep wanting to say Jared Cook, and it's not Jared Cook. It's the guy
Jared
from the
Cook.
Rams ex-former quarterback. I just drew a blank on his damn name.
Well, you're not the only one. Jared Goff. Yeah.
Yes, Jared Goff. So
Jared Cook's a tight end.
Yes, you got
but they can have him too.
Yeah, you've got the new head coach in Campbell. You've got a new quarterback. They have no illusions of turning this team from to a playoff team right away. They've got to kick out all the old Patriots they try to do, So Campbell's probably going to build this team. I think this is where you see the first offensive lineman come off the board. I think this is where Detroit, looks for a cornerstone offensive tackle. You're going to build that offensive line, then build that defensive line, and build the Lions into the kind of team you want. It seems like, though, the Lions need running backs every year. They haven't had a running back on that team since Barry Sanders. And before Barry Sanders, I'd say they hadn't had a running back on that team since Billy Sims.
Exactly.
So although I expect them to go offensive line, the running back, this is where a running back could go. But I really think this is going to be offensive tackle here. I think they just go and say, yeah, I think it's either going to be Sewell or, well, no, it probably is just going to be Sewell because he's probably the best player on the board.
He's the top rated tackle.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm looking at his size, 6'5", 305. There's your bookend left tackle. And it's not a sexy pick, but I think this is where Detroit, this is where they want to go.
I can agree with that.
And we're going to get to the Saints. I just kind of informal thing here, trying to just start throwing people out there, going through the draft, the first round of the draft, and seeing where we think guys go. So Detroit takes an offensive tackle. What does Carolina do here at 8? What do you think Carolina needs?
Everything. I don't think that they got the quarterback that they wanted, to be honest. They just got what they could. So that could be a possible option for them. I don't think it will be, if you want to know the honest to God truth. They need offensive linemen terribly. They need defensive players across the board. So it could be just a coin toss as to which direction you go. And in that situation, you usually go with the best player available.
Yeah. Well, I kind of think they look hard at a pass rusher here. I think this is where they really want to see a top pass rusher, somebody who can put pressure on the quarterback. So I'm kind of leaning towards the Michigan defensive end, Kwity Paye. Just because he's a little undersized. I think 6'3", 267. He's kind of light in the pants. So a guy like Jalen Phillips might be more popular, and that might be where they pick somebody instead of the number one defensive end. But I think that's what they're really going to target here. I think they're going to really look at, because they got Sam Darnold, they're willing to wait a year on a quarterback. They want to see what Darnold does. And if Darnold stinks, then you move on. But I think they're going to really need a pass rusher here. I think that's what Carolina is looking at. And I can hear Cat Chronicle screaming at me, no, offensive lineman. But I think, Detroit taking, and this is assuming there's no trades, Detroit taking the top tackle off the board. I don't think Carolina goes and grabs the next offensive tackle, who is Rashawn Slater. Just try saying that quickly. I don't think they go the offensive tackle right away, but that is a possibility too.
Yeah. See, that's the hard thing about trying to prognosticate these picks, because and doing mock drafts, it's so hard to do them accurately because one of those top teams goes a different direction or trades, that throws off the entire thing.
Right.
I hate to see trades in the first round.
Well, but that's where you're going to get a trade, because now the top 10 is hard to get into, but somebody's going to say, the guy we really like, it's probably too soon to go get him. So we'll be willing to trade down just to pick up some extra picks so we can get the guy we want later on, because we think he'll still be there. I think this is his first spot. The Denver Broncos, this is the first spot where you see a quarterback come off the board, the fourth quarterback come off the board, and I think this is Trey Lance here. I think this team is the team that goes after Trey Lance. A mobile quarterback. I think that, unfortunately, this coach, Vic Fangio, this is probably his last year as a head coach for the Broncos. I don't think
if they don't win the Super Bowl.
Well, they're not going to. I mean,
and I think the same. There's several teams that have coaches that are coaching for their jobs, in my opinion. As we've talked about before, Chicago is in a make or break mode, I do believe. I believe you're correct in saying that about Denver as well.
Well,
where else?
They want to get the Elway stink off this franchise. They love, and Elway is another example of a not every former player makes a good executive. For every John Lynch that you have with the 49ers, for every John Lynch or I just forgot this player's name, but another good player, GM. Ozzie Newsome. Thank you. For every John Lynch or Ozzie Newsome, you're going to get a Matt Millen. You're going to get a John Elway. You're going to get guys that really don't know how to build a franchise. And I think this coach is on his way out because he was an Elway pick, and this new GM is going to want to get his kind of guy in there, somebody who's going to run with a mobile quarterback, run those bootlegs and all the things, the RPOs, all the things they think takes for winning football. And that's who this pick is going to be for. This is Trey Lance is going to be the pick. and they're going to build this team for the future.
Yeah. I think that Elway has gotten remarkable mileage because he's the one that brought Peyton Manning in there. Were it not for that and the success that translated into, I don't think Elway would still be there.
No, I mean that.
And if you look at it from the outside looking in, that was the last suitable option that they have had at quarterback was Peyton Manning. And how long ago has that been?
When that team was built, there was a quarterback away from a Super Bowl. I mean, a great quarterback away from being a Super Bowl, not just any quarterback. I mean, you had the defense already, and you had a running game. They just needed a quarterback that could get them over the hump. And that's what Peyton Manning did. And he had the good receiving options and all that. And the problem is that team was only built to win one or two Super Bowls, and then you had to dissolve it. You know, that
cornerstone of your defense is now an old guy, and Von Miller stays hurt. You're going to have to move on from him eventually, and basically rebuild that defense.
Yeah, so you're looking at a team that it's a rebuild mode. This is your first piece. You got your franchise quarterback in Trey Lance, maybe not, but he played at North Dakota State, so he's got kind of a fan base there anyway. You know, so you've got something. You can do something with this team, realizing that you're resetting it and it's going to start over again with all new players, and you just build it one piece at a time. And so, you know, this draft is going to be a running back, a receiver, quarterback, offensive lineman. You're going to see that kind of stuff. Then they'll work on the defense in the next draft.
I watched Trey Lance's pro day in here the other night. He threw something like 66 passes in that workout. I was impressed with his long ball, but when they got
that's what she said.
Yeah, when they started working the red zone routes, he was not sharp at all.
You know, I'm gonna go back and look at his height again. Trey Lance, I'm nervous about him only because I think he is very small. And so I think the bust potential is quite large if he doesn't get a lot of talent around him early. I mean, he's 6'3", 222, but like how you said, you know, Zach Young looks small. I think Trey Lance looks skinny, really thin.
And I hate to say this way because it sounds like you're being elitist, but coming from North Dakota or South Dakota?
North Dakota State.
North Dakota State. Coming from there, there's going to be a question mark on the competition that he faced. It was the same thing with Josh Allen when he came out for Buffalo. But he worked his way into being successful, though. I'm not saying that Trey Lance wouldn't do that.
But, you know, I'm not trying to do the comparison thing, but, you know, Josh Allen, when he came in the league, it's like Taysom Hill. He's that size of a player. He was a physical specimen coming in. You just thought he was a raw passer. You didn't know if he was going to ever develop into an NFL passer. He's just like a big athlete. This kid looks really small. Even though he's tall, he just looks slender. He looks thin to me. And it could be the footage I'm looking at, but he just looks like Kyler Murray looked too small to me. So
Kyler Murray is small.
He is. But I mean, you can look short and stocky, and you can look tall and lean, but I just find that he looks very thin. And that's a concern for me. But you know, Denver, if you get an offensive system that, you know, he can accelerate, excel in, where he is on the move, a moving pocket, bootlegs. He's not tucking the ball off and running all the time, but
Yeah.
just a lot of motion and a good running game that can take the pressure off of him. I think that's how he'll be successful. All right, so the last one in the top 10 is the Dallas Cowboys.
They're going to screw it up.
Well,
I don't know. I have a lot of faith in the possibilities for the Cowboys that come with Mike McCarthy being in charge of that. Now, also is the caveat that exactly how much does Mike McCarthy get to contribute to that with Jerry Jones sitting in the room? But had it not been for injuries last year, I think that the Cowboys would have been a drastically different team. I really do.
Yes and no. That defense stunk, and that's where I think they go in the draft. I mean, yes, you had injuries, but I think Mike Nolan was trying to force that defense to play a scheme it's not built for. And I think that's why that team stunk as bad as it did. And that secondary is garbage. So I think that's where Patrick Surtain goes right here at 10.
Yeah. Every mock draft that I've seen has had Surtain going to Dallas.
Yeah. I mean, Jerry Jones is going to be in love with the name. And he's from Alabama, so he comes from a big school. This is exactly what they need on the defensive side. I think they still need a lot of offensive line help. I think the Ewok Ezekiel Elliott is done as a running back. I think they need a new running back on that team, or somebody to spell Elliott and let Elliott be the short yardage guy. I don't think he is the power running back he used to be. It's one of those things. You only have so many carries in you.
These last 2 seasons have taken a lot of miles off of those tires.
Yeah,
because last year with Dak being on the shelf, and then Dalton getting hurt, they had to lean on him way more than they normally would have.
Yeah,
and that was some tough sledding. I watched several of those games, and he took a pounding.
Well, Elliott now in his career is now, if you need a yard, he'll get you that yard. You need 3 yards, he'll get you that yard. So that's just who he is now. And so I think that pretty much wraps up the top 10. Then it gets interesting from here. Jamar Chase is off the board. Devonta Smith, I think. Who did I say Devonta Smith went to, or did I say him yet?
Yes, you did.
Yeah. Okay, Devonta Smith to Miami. So now here's the Giants at 11. Giants have a lot of needs.
Yes.
I don't know where the Giants go because they're shaky at quarterback. You've got a running back coming off of an ACL. You're okay at receivers, but you could use a playmaker. Your offensive line is spotty. You need defensive help. I'm not sure where the Giants go from here.
If I had to venture a guess, I would think that they could be possibly targeting Jalen Waddle.
You think they go Waddle this early? It's possible. I mean, he could play kick returner too for him, so that is a possibility.
And if not that, you can't go wrong picking a wide receiver or a cornerback, and those are the 2 deepest positions in this draft.
Yeah, I mean, for the sake of argument, let's say the Giants do wide receiver, and a kick returner. So let's say they go Waddle here. I can also see the Giants trading down from this pick. This is where I think the Bears start trying to make a move because they are looking at the quarterbacks. The Eagles pick at 12, and they've got Jalen
Hurts.
Jalen Hurts, thank you. There's too many Jalen's to worry about, but I think this is where the Bears start making some calls, possibly to get ahead of the Eagles, maybe to trade with the Chargers or the Vikings, because those are teams that they've got some needs, but they could probably drop back into the low teens or the 20 with the Bears and still get the guy they want. So this is where I think some of the trades may happen. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, we're going to say that the Giants go ahead and take my son's got Micah Parsons. They would do Michael Parsons. That's possible too.
Yeah.
I can see that. That makes sense for him.
You're talking about the Giants.
Giants, yes.
Yeah.
Giants. Yeah. Okay. Let's do Micah Parsons here.
Okay.
And let's say that's where they go with that. I can see that. So that leaves the Eagles now. What do you see the Eagles doing here?
Oh, there's so many needs there.
Oh yeah.
That's just like flip a coin and pick a position. I don't think that they're settled at quarterback.
No.
Now, one position that I think I'm not going to say solid, but was somewhat of a bright spot in this past season was running back with crud. He's a Louisiana Tech boy, the one that we drafted.
Oh! No, he's not enough. I don't think he's enough.
No, I don't mean that he's going to be like an every down or even an Alvin Kamara type back. Boston Scott.
Yeah.
But he gives them something to build on.
Yeah.
And he superseded all expectations for him, I do believe.
He did. Well, the running back, though, who really did well for him was Miles Sanders. Did pretty well for them this past year. They have a lot of problems receiver. Their receivers got very old. Alshon Jeffries, never did bounce back from his injuries. They really don't have much behind him. I think this is where Jalen Waddle goes.
Okay, I could see that.
Because let's assume that all the top four quarterbacks off the board. The Eagles now looking at Mac Jones or, trading down or something. I think in this case they do. They go ahead and take a receiver, so that this is where Waddle goes.
Okay.
All right. So the next one, is the Chargers. If the Chargers could draft a kicker in the first round, this is where they have a need, a kicker, because their special teams stink. They don't
they do have the luxury of knowing that they're not looking for a quarterback, though.
No.
And they're pretty set at receiver.
They've got some receivers, but they really need a stud. They need somebody to really kind of, because this is a team that's struggling to fill their stadium. And if we get past, this is California, so who knows? But if we get past the COVID shit and they start allowing fans back in the stadium again, you kind of need at this point now some kind of stud defensive end. They need a big name cornerback. They need offensive line help to protect that quarterback that had such a great year.
All things being equal, I think that they in my mind, if it were me making that decision, I watched not too long ago the replay of the Chargers-Saints game from this past year, and that game would have been an absolute blowout if they had a defense.
Yes.
Their defense is the reason that we won that game.
Well, they have no pass rush.
Yeah.
That's the biggest issue. You've got some names on that defensive line. You got Joey Bosa, who's hurt. You got Melvin Ingram. You've had some players out there. So this is why I'm not going defensive end right away, because I think they want to see if Joey Bosa bounces back from injury. I really think what the Chargers need, is a running game. And I know they've got some running backs in there, but Melvin Gordon's gone. They got some guys you can contribute, but I think this is where you start seeing the guys like Travis Etienne, the kid you like a lot from North Carolina.
Williams.
Not Javonte.
Javonte Williams.
Yeah, Javonte Williams or Najee Harris. You've got those kind of guys, and all three of those guys seemingly can catch the ball well, have good hands. ATM worked really hard at getting better in that, but I think this might be a spot where Najee Harris is a possibility. My son's chiming in. Two small speed demons receivers back to back. Yeah, I know. But I think, and he's got left tackle for the Chargers. We talked about the fact that the first tackle's gone off the board. I think, I do agree that I think that this is where you draft a guy like the kid from Northwestern here, Rashawn Slater. I think he is a good choice right here to protect that quarterback. But I don't know. I'm still in love with running backs. Even though running backs have kind of been downplayed, I think the Chargers could get a running back that could take the pressure off of the quarterback from having to throw so much, because that was the other problem they had in that Saints game. They would get the lead, but they didn't run the ball to control the clock.
Yeah.
So that's where this is kind of going. But all right, I'm gonna go.
Which is magnified when your defense isn't helping you.
Right.
If you can do a lot on offense to control the clock when your defense is subpar, and they made absolutely no effort to do that end.
Exactly. So they drafted Kelly last year. They're going to do a running back by committee. You got a new head coach in there. It's hard. I don't know if they do Slater or if they do Najee Harris, but let's do Slater here, just to give them an offensive tackle to protect that quarterback, Justin Herbert. But I think they do need a bell cow running back. That's where I was going to with the star. They need somebody else on that offense that just kind of, the fans want to gravitate to and take that pressure off of Justin. So, but that's the Chargers. Vikings. I don't care who the Vikings draft. I want them to blow it. I hate the Vikings. I really do.
Well, the Vikings need a tight end.
They do. They also need defensive line help. They need offensive line help. They need linebackers. They've got a lot of issues. I think that they would like to get a pass rusher. So, they need that. This is where an offensive tackle would go here if the Chargers went running back, but let's go ahead and give them Jalen Phillips from Miami of Florida. That's who the Vikings just need, a pass rusher right now.
Okay.
All right, so here's the Patriots on the clock. Patriots on the clock, they need everything too.
Yeah.
And they have drafted very poorly. And I think,
to be honest, I don't think it would be outside the realm of possibility to see the Patriots go for Mac Jones.
That's who you would expect. You would expect the Patriots to do that. But knowing Bill Belichick, he'll draft a safety in the first round. I mean, that's kind of, oh, he'll trade down.
Yeah.
This is where the Patriots, I think this is, if Mac Jones is still on the board, I think the Bears give the Patriots a lot to move up to 15 to go and grab Mac Jones. Although they don't really need to. Well, they do need to get ahead of the Washington football team.
Yeah.
So, this is a good possibility the Patriots trade down here. I can see that. I can see several teams making this move. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, the Patriots, this is a good spot for a running back. This is a good spot for a defensive end, good spot for a linebacker. I mean, they've just got so many. They need a quarterback, clearly. I mean, you're not going to win with Cam Newton, and I don't think they have. I just don't think they have very much talent at all. This could also be where you see the first defensive tackle come off the board. This could be where the Alabama defensive tackle comes off the board right here. And, Belichick, defensive guy, I could see him going, hey, we're going to head and take Christian Barmore right here just to fill up, give us a run stuffer in the middle, protect my linebackers, and just build from there. And he'll probably draft a quarterback like in the 5th round, 6th round, and try and make a star out of him.
Yeah,
that would be a totally Belichick move. He would go and draft a a Davis Mills or Ian Book or even a Kellen Mond and try and turn him into a quarterback. I also think, in the back of my head, I think that the 49ers make a trade once they get their quarterback, trade away Garoppolo, and he ends up back with the Patriots. I have that feeling. I can just see Garoppolo going back to the Patriots.
If they do, they are able to bring that plan to fruition that they set in motion by trading up to that 3rd spot. Mm-hmm. And it all works out the way they wanted it to. I believe they'll cut bait with Garoppolo.
I do too. So here's the Cardinals now. Arizona Cardinals, they've got several needs because they had a shot of getting into the playoffs and they blew it at the end of the season. And part of the reason why they blew it is they couldn't get over the hump of being able to rush the quarterback. They did not have a great pass rush. They struggled at cornerback. They don't have a running game. They have a lot of issues. They just let the LSU cornerback go. What was his name?
Peterson.
Patrick Peterson. They just let him go. So, this is a good spot where I think they go cornerback in the 1st round. I think they go after Patrick Surtain's off the board. I think they either take J.C. Horn or Caleb Farley. Farley. I think they do J.C. Horn here. Yeah. I think that's who they go to him instead, just because I think that Farley's injury history kind of scares him a little bit, but I can see J.C. Horn here.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to kind of rush through these next ones. So now you got the Raiders on the board. Raiders fired their entire offensive line. I mean.
Well, that makes it easy to decide.
I've never seen that before, but they cut their entire offensive line. They picked up some players, but they still need some offensive linemen. And it's weird because, the Raiders have, outside of offensive line, they got other issues. They still have yet to replace Khalil Mack.
And they have no real talent at wide receiver either.
You got some guys, but not a whole lot. I mean, that tight end really acts as a receiver for them.
Yeah.
As a number 1 receiver. Shit, if Al Davis was still around, they'd take a speedy wide receiver too. But I think that this is probably this is the old NFL Network. What was his name now? He's now the GM for the Raiders.
Mayock.
Mike Mayock's kind of thing now. This is where he would really go after kind of a top pass rusher here. And I think that Gregory Rousseau is the guy they'll probably target. Somebody
Miami.
From Miami. He's a guy who has all the measurables, but he hasn't put his game together yet. So he makes perfect sense for a guy like Mike Mayock, who thinks you can coach that kind of guy up. But I think that's the kind of guy they're going to probably target here, is a pass rusher. So, all right, next one is the Miami Dolphins. This is their actual pick. Dolphins. Again, I still think they need more offensive help. But excuse me, Miami, because they've got so many picks, I think this is the one where we start looking at an offensive line to protect Tua, because I think with Tua being now the guy, and Tua still coming off that injury, he looked slow last year processing stuff. I think this year with him as the starter, all 16 games, they're going to try and do a little power football to try and control the clock and take the pressure off of Tua. So this is where they're going to really look for offensive line help. And with the two top tackles off the board, I think this is where they probably go either guard, or they go ahead and take, let's just say, the Virginia Tech offensive tackle, Christian Darrisaw. I think that's how you say his name.
Yeah.
Darrisaw. Yeah. 6'5", 317. You put him down as your tackle, your left tackle. You've kind of replaced. You're still working on replacing the kid that you sent to Houston. You got all those boatload of picks for. I think that's where you kind of want to go with that. All right, so now you have the Washington football team. Mac Jones is still on the board. The Bears are getting nervous. Washington really has no quarterback.
No, what's his name?
Alex Smith announces retirement. They're not going to bring him back anyway.
And you ran the Ohio State kid.
Well, yeah. Well, he was lazy. I mean, so Mac Jones makes a lot of sense here. Yeah. And I still think he ends up with the Bears, but it's since we're not doing trades, I'm going to assume that they don't trade up. No one trades up, so they go ahead and take a quarterback here. I wanted to look up something real quick. Who the hell did Washington bring in? They brought in a quarterback. I know they did. Let's see something here.
Teddy Bridgewater's still available.
Yeah. Okay, so you got Henke in there. Oh, Kyle Allen. No, not Kyle. Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's who they brought in. I couldn't think of who they brought in. So you've got
he'll be the starter.
He'll be the starter. Mac Jones is ass no matter who he gets drafted to. Well, I really want to screw over the Bears, because I really think the Bears panic and go after Mac Jones. So Yeah.
And it wouldn't be the first time that they traded up to get a quarterback out of panic.
Right. um, I'm curious to see who makes the decision for this pick because I thought Heineke played well in that playoff game. And I think Fitzmagic gives you a little bit for a little while. So I think they can get by with either of these guys, and they should just go ahead and build the rest of the team first and let Mac Jones slide down to the Bears at 20 and let the Bears deal with the fallout of drafting Mac Jones. So I know people want another wide receiver to pair him with Terry McLaurin, who I would love for the Saints to somehow pry out of the hands of Washington, but they won't. Washington's never given him up. So, I think this is where Washington really they need some offensive weapons to go along with on that team. I think they take a tight end here. Pitts is already long gone.
Trimble.
So yeah, not Trimble. I think they take I think they take the Penn State tight end. Pat oh man, this is a tough name. Freiermuth. My son's laughing at me for these pronunciations. But I have not watched the enough film on these guys, but I think this is where they take a tight end here because I don't know if they're going to do receiver because they could use another receiver. They could use a speed receiver. But I don't know if do they go ahead and take say a guy like we've got Waddle off the board already, but say they do they go and take a Kadarius Toney or Terrence Marshall from LSU, or Elijah Moore from Ole Miss. I think it's a toss-up between the receiver from Florida, Toney, or the tight end from Penn State. One of those two. They're going to want somebody who can stretch the field and move the chains. So that's why I'm going with the tight end from Penn State. I'd still, I know they need a quarterback. I just don't think that they're sold on. I think they can catch a quarterback in the second round, and they'll get a guy. They may go for a guy like Kyle Trask.
Yeah.
All right. So we're getting there, guys. We're getting there. Why is this resetting? Damn shit. Okay. So we get into now the Bears at 20. This is where I stick them with Mac Jones.
Okay. Let's give them Jones.
Have at it. Because you got nothing at quarterback. Have at it. So now here's the Colts. Colts were a playoff team. So, they just traded for their quarterback of the future. And I think this is where you're going to see a huge improvement in the Colts. I think getting him, the former Eagles quarterback, getting him reunited with Frank Reich, that was their Super Bowl year. I think you're going to see Carson Wentz really bounce back. But I think that the big thing that the Colts need is, well, of course, you need a pass rusher because their defense wasn't as good as it was the previous year. But I think they really need a wide receiver because I think they're getting old at receiver.
The highest wide receiver that I have right now is the kid from Minnesota, Rashad Bateman.
Yeah, let me see who Detillier's got because that's who I keep flipping back to. He's got Bateman at 7. You
also got Elijah Moore from Ole Miss, Terrence Marshall at LSU, and Rondale Moore from Purdue.
I think this is where a guy like Terrence Marshall may pan out for a guy for that team. I also think that they look at a left tackle as well because here you have a quarterback who's gotten a crap beat out of him over in Philadelphia, so they need somebody to protect this guy so they can run the ball more effectively and take the pressure off of him. I just don't know if Tevin Jenkins is the next guy up. I don't know. He's still a first round selection. Let's give him an offensive lineman. Let's give him Jenkins because I really don't think you've got the pass rushers available right now. So Jenkins goes to the Colts at 21. 22, Tennessee Titans, the Tennessee Tuxedos. Those of you of a certain age know who the Tennessee Tuxedos are. Do you know who Tennessee Tuxedo is?
It was a cartoon character, wasn't it?
Yes, he was, voiced by Don Adams. And he had a favorite. Heck, okay, we blanked out for a second.
Yeah, we did.
I shouldn't have a weak signal because I'm like right next to my Wi-Fi connection. All right. So the Tennessee Titans, another guy needs edge rusher. They need tight end. They need a cornerback. I think they go cornerback here because Adoree Jackson, they just kind of given up on. I think this is where Fairley goes. I think Caleb Fairley goes right here to the Tennessee Titans. The tight ends, they just don't have a good enough tight end left on the board. Edge rusher, there's some guys, some undersized guys they could probably go for, but I think they really want to get a cornerback. Malcolm Butler, I think they traded him or let him go. I
think so.
Adoree Jackson's out, so they're going to want Fairley to come in.
Yeah. Agreed.
So that's where Caleb Fairley goes. The New York Jets. This is the pick they got from the Seahawks. The Jets need everything. I mean, you're trying to narrow it down, but the Jets really need everything.
They just take the best player left on the board, I believe.
I think so too. I think they need help on the defensive line, and given they've got a defensive-minded coach, I think that's where they build first. I think they try and build that defensive line up. The pass rushers, I don't know. They got a great pass rusher. I think he's going to want a big guy in the inside. I think, you're probably looking at the guy Levi from Washington or, a guy like Alan McNeil from North Carolina State, who I kind of have him as my sleeper pick in the first round for the Saints. If the nightmare happens and all the cornerbacks are gone, they can't move. North Carolina State, that's where our defensive line coach came from. I just watch that. That's a possibility. But I think they go defensive tackle. I think they kind of they want to get a big defensive tackle who can stuff the run and rush the passer. So I'm going to put that guy Levi from Washington in there with the Jets. I think that's where they start. Defensive line and coach, you want defensive players in there.
Yes.
Steelers, they need a running back. They need a running back in the worst way. They need a quarterback too, but they really need a running back. And they need a running back who can catch the ball. So I'm going to give them Najee Harris. We didn't give him to the Chargers. I think that's where Najee Harris is the best fit. Travis Etienne is another good fit for them, but I think they want a guy who can run inside and outside for them and catch passes. Because I think Roethlisberger's arm died as the season went on. So he started throwing shorter passes. His receivers dropped a lot of the balls. Connor was not an every down back. That's what they need. They really need an every down back right now. They need a power back, but a guy who can break to the outside.
Yeah.
So that's where Najee Harris goes. Jacksonville. The Jaguars drafted the Clemson
Shaggy.
quarterback. Yeah. Clemson quarterback in the first round. Why not pair him up with another Clemson player? And hell, Jacksonville to Clemson, South, the Carolinas. That's a natural fit.
Yeah.
Who was their running back last year? I don't even know. They had James Robertson.
And that's why you couldn't remember.
Well, he actually played fairly decently. But this could be a place where Travis Etienne goes. I
like the Etienne pick.
Yeah, I think this is another offensive line spot. I think this is also defensive line spot. But I'm kind of with you. You're pairing him up with his former teammate. You got two Clemson guys. Clemson's been in the national championship game seemingly every year. I think Etienne goes here to Jacksonville.
And it puts asses in the seats. So
yes, it does. It does, because that's part of it. You got stars,
Yeah.
Having those stars there, that makes a big deal. Cleveland, Cleveland, I thought their biggest problem was they didn't commit enough to the running game. At key times. I thought that, when they got success early, they kind of ran the ball very well, but then there were other games where you just kind of forgot. We got Nick Chubb on this team. We need to run the ball more. But I think that this is where a linebacker needs to go. I think this is where, because we haven't had many linebackers disappear from the board. I think this is where, unfortunately for Saints fans, I think this is where the Tulsa linebacker goes, Xavier Collins. I think he fits in well over there. I'm looking at their starters. Their defensive starters, just not very impressive. You got some young guys in there, but you really need somebody, an impact player, and I think that's where Xavier Collins fits in. Possibly on the outside. Of course, we've already, taken what's his name off the board already. Micah Parsons off the board already from Penn State.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm ready to pull the trigger on the Georgia linebacker. I think Notre Dame linebacker has a good shot of moving up here and going to the spot. But I'm going to stick with Xavier Collins here. I think that's where they really need that inside presence. So that's where he goes at Cleveland. Baltimore.
Cornerback.
Yeah, I just don't want to. This is the scary part as a Saints fan. They need receivers, but their quarterback doesn't throw to them half the time anyway. They need an edge rusher. They need offensive line help. I think I'm not going to go corner here. I think they're going to do edge rusher just because, and they're not afraid to draft undersized edge rushers. I think in this case, if I can get to the page right, I don't have this book marked off very well. I think they look at Jason Owa from Penn State. I think that's a good possibility. He's got a little bit of speed. He's one of those guys who can really get after the quarterback. He needs a little bit of work, but I think he's got a lot of potential in there to be a good outside pass rusher for this team. So let's go with that guy. So now that leaves us the Saints at 28. And yeah, I kind of manipulated some of my picks in the draft because I think this is Gavin Newsom.
Absolutely.
I think, Peyton has said multiple times, we're looking at cornerback. Cornerback needs to be addressed. I think they even possibly move up. You could see them possibly trade with Jacksonville, possibly with the Tennessee Titans or the New York Jets, because the Jets in particular need more picks. I think if they make a trade, I think to trade up, I think they burn next year's assets. I don't think they give up, say, a second or one of the 2/3 to move up to get a guy this year. I think it's next year's pick. Say start looking at burning. So yeah. What Annie M? Ann M goes to Jets. What does that mean? Ann M. I don't know what that means, Chad. I'm sorry. But I think this is where the Saints go. I think the Saints go Gavin Newsom. I think that's the guy. They got Caleb Fairley and Gavin Newsom. Gavin. I knew I was going to say the friggin' California governor's name because I've been writing it the wrong way. Every time I do a mock draft, it's Greg Newsom II. I know that, not Gavin Newsom. I'm too political. I think Greg Newsom is one of the guys they're targeting. He's a number 2 guy who could be a number 1 guy. It takes some of the pressure off of the Saints. So
I agree.
All right. I kind of wanted it because I ended up going through the entire first round till we got to the Saints. The rest of the guys, I really don't care. I mean, after the Saints pick, I mean,
yeah,
Packers, Bills, Ravens, and Bucks. Okay. Packers, I think they need offensive line help. I think they need receiver help too. But the Packers, it's I'm still mad at the Packers for how they blew that game against the damn
Buccaneers.
You had 3 opportunities to win this game. I think they definitely need an offensive tackle. I think they look at inside linebacker. For the sake of argument, let's just say they do inside linebacker here. I think this is where a guy like I hope he doesn't go, but Jamin Davis probably goes. If not Jamin Davis, I think they look at the LSU kid Cox.
Jabril.
Jabril Cox, although I don't think he's really a first round talent. I think he's more of a second round talent. I think they look at a guy like the Notre Dame linebacker, the Georgia linebacker. They're looking at some of those guys. I think that's what they really need help at. But I'm going to say, for the sake of argument, they went inside linebacker, and they go ahead and take Jamin Davis. I think that kind of fits their needs pretty well. Buffalo Bills, I think they need to take the next step. I think they really need their defense is good. They could probably use a little bit of help at cornerback. I think they really need they need a little help at running back. I mean, Devin Singletary, he's okay, but he's not I don't think he's a 3-down guy. I think he's more of a third down running back. I mean, you watch that playoff game and how many times they just didn't run the football. I think this is where Travis Etienne, or even better, the North Carolina running back, I think that's where this guy goes.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where he fits in. I think that's what Buffalo really needs. So this is where Buffalo goes and gets the running back to try and help Allen and hopefully get to the next level. And we're going to say it's the North Carolina running back.
Williams.
Williams. I think the Ravens, they need an offensive tackle to replace, the one they just traded to the Chiefs. They got some other needs, but I think did we didn't give them an offensive tackle earlier, did we? I don't even remember.
I think you made it an edge rusher.
Yeah, I thought I did. Knowing that they were going to have an opportunity to take an offensive tackle, I think this is where Jenkins, the Oklahoma State tackle, I think this is where he goes at 31, and the friggin' Bucks. You know, I think the Bucks are really good on defense right now. I think a lot of it is just because everything kind of gelled and they kind of hit their stride right at the right time.
Yeah.
I don't think they're as good as they make themselves out to be, or as the media makes them out to be. But I think, one of the things they need is they need help. Excuse me. They need help in the second, not the second. Yeah, I guess they need help in the secondary. I don't know. I think their linebackers are really good. The defensive line, you got some age in there. You got Sue. They brought in so many damn players. I don't know where they go from here. Then it's not that they're a deep team. I just don't know where they go from here. Do they go wide receiver? Do they go?
I think it would be defense.
Yeah, and I really think they're going to look at a defensive lineman here, probably somebody to replace Sue in the middle.
I agree.
Probably a defensive end or like a two-way play, not a two-way player, but a guy who can play defensive end and defensive tackle. Probably, I don't know. I'm just looking to see what's left. I don't know. I really don't know because it's just a running back. We could always take Caitlyn Jenner. Yeah, because I kept calling him Galvin Newsom. I know it's Greg Newsom, guys. Yeah, they could go running back too, but I just don't see them taking Travis Etienne here. Although I did give him to the Jacksonville Jaguars,
Well, there's after your top three running backs, Williams, Harris, and Etienne, there's going to be somewhat of a drop off. Mm-hmm. The next highest rated one that I have is the other running back from North Carolina, Carter.
Yeah. This is also a good possibility that the Bucks just trade out of this position. But let's go. Let's say they need a guard. I'm gonna give them the top guard, and I'll say the Bucks just take a guard, best player available. And if I can find the page now. Yeah, this show really looks prepared. But, Landon Dickerson is still on the board. He is the Alabama guard. He may go earlier than this. He may go instead of one of those tackles, because he's a center. You still have the USC offensive guard, Vera Tucker, Wyatt Davis from Ohio State. He's probably a good fit at this point, but let's just give him Vera Tucker, the USC offensive guard, and call it a night. That'd be the guard. Yeah, I know. I think they go defensive tackle too. I just don't know who they would go for. Oh, Greg Newsom. I had Greg Newsom going to the Saints. And I think that's kind of the way that I think the draft's going to kind of shake out. A lot of offensive skill positions. I think 5 quarterbacks go in the first round. I think at least 4 receivers go, 4 cornerbacks. I didn't, a good bit of offensive linemen, but I really didn't see the run on linebackers like I thought maybe would happen. And I think that's why the Saints could possibly get that linebacker they need in the second round, and I don't think he's going to last that long, but I sure as hell hope Jamin Davis kind of drops into the second round and the Saints can move up. My pick at 28 is Greg Newsome. My sleeper pick, a guy I would watch for to see what happens. I ran through some picks just in a simulation the other night. I like Osa. I'm gonna butcher this dude's name. Osu Odigizua. I think that's how you say his name from UCLA. I like that defensive end a lot. I'd like to see the Saints kind of get him kind of as the guy they're going to groom behind. He's kind of a tweener. He can play defensive tackle and defensive end, but a guy they can kind of groom behind Cam Jordan and Davenport as a possible third defensive end. I know we've got the kid Granderson, but I kind of like this guy as somebody who can play inside and outside and give us some flexibility. It's a guy to watch for. I don't know if we draft a quarterback. I've talked about this before. I think if it falls right, we will. But
I don't see it happening.
I think if we can get 2 starters, a linebacker and a cornerback in the first 2 rounds, we can get a receiver to develop to become the number 2 guy, but won't start out being the number 2 guy. I think that's a plus. And if we can get a defensive tackle, like maybe a Tyler Shelvin or some kind of defensive tackle in there, a big guy, Calvin's boy from Florida. We get a big guy in there, play the zero technique. I think that would be a great draft for us. I think, that's why I don't want to trade any picks. I'd like to get, the 2 third rounders to be good depth players, and that 4th rounder, somebody who can come in and be heavy in the heavy rotation. So I think that's where 2 starters and at least 2 rotational guys, and I think we have a good draft for this year. And
I completely agree.
Yeah. I've seen Barrymore slipping. I have seen that. Well, it's because he's a defensive tackle, and some people. This is a very cornerback and receiver heavy draft, so I think you'll see a lot of those guys going in that first round. Slatton. So that's kind of how I see the draft. We'll see how it plays out Thursday and Friday night. Do you have any sleeper picks? Do you have any positions that you think if the Saints take this guy, Saints Twitter would explode and everyone would lose their mind?
Not really. But I would not be as badly as we need that cornerback and that linebacker. I would not be at all surprised, given how deep it is with wide receivers, that second pick being a wide receiver. Because if it shakes out the way that we just laid it out, there's still going to be first round talent available in the second round at wide receiver.
And the other thing I keep reading is don't be surprised if the Saints take an offensive tackle in the first round. I think that would make Twitter explode. But Ryan Ramczyk is playing his last year of his deal. Yes, I have no doubt we're going to re-sign that guy. But Teron Armstead is also playing the last year of his deal. And it's questionable whether they bring him back. And they do need a third tackle, a third guy to kind of play that third tight end when they go into the jumbo formation.
Yeah.
And I have one Louisiana boy going to the Saints. I have Trey Ragas. I went homer. Trey Ragas to go into the Saints in the 6th round just because I want somebody in there to kind of groom to be the power back, to kind of let Murray go on his own, to save money And you got a kid that's can play special teams. He can also be your power back. Hey, watch the defensive tackle from Louisiana Tech. There's a good shot. The Saints could look at him too. So the only LSU player I think I had listed as a possible shot, and this is the last thing we'll talk about tonight because I know you got to go.
Yeah.
What is his name now? I want to make sure I say his name right. Tyler Shelvin, the nose tackle from LSU. I think there's a possibility the Saints look at him too, because I mean, there's not too many one technique or zero technique defensive linemen available with the big size that the Saints need. The problem with Shelvin is you got to watch that weight. But I think he's a possibility. Late third, early fourth round. I think there's a good possibility they could bring him in. So that's my Louisiana players. We'll see how this shakes out, though. And in the meantime, don't forget Thursday night, round 1, Friday night, rounds 2 and 3, Saturday day, I think 10 in the morning, maybe 11 in the morning is rounds 4 through 7. So the Saints have no 5th round pick, 1 6th, 2 7th, and 1 4th as of today. Anyway, you got anything else to say, Sean?
No, I'm good, brother. Thank you guys for joining us. Hope we keep moving forward with this.
Yep, absolutely. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next time on Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.